Hi, welcome to Pastor Talk. I'm Pastor Steve. I want to talk to you today a little bit about the end time. Jesus in Matthew 24 gives us one of the most descriptive, one of the longest texts, you might say. He really talks about the end time, what it's going to be like, and what the signs are, so to speak. And most of us are familiar with some of the stuff in there. Uh, he talks about some things in heaven and earth that are going to happen. But his disciples came to him one day because he had talked to him. He had mentioned to them that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed, and they came to him in private and they said, Lord, when's this going to happen? And Lord, what's the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? And so he gives them this descriptive discourse and text in chapter 24 of Matthew. And he talks about the earthquakes increasing. He talks about famines, and he talks about pestilences, and he talks about wars and nations against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms. And most of us are familiar with those verses. And so we see some things he's trying to tell us, that it's going to get bad at the end of time. And these bad things that happen are signs to help us prepare and recognize that the end is close. Now, you and I both know that earthquakes have increased. Things have gotten worse. The tsunamis and earthquakes, more and more, they've increased over time. But he also speaks about Noah and the flood. And he uses Noah and the flood as an illustration for us of, first of all, that we wouldn't be caught by surprise as they were then, about the wrath of God that's coming on the earth. In the days of Noah, he says the people were eating and drinking. In other words, they were having business as usual, and they weren't prepared. They weren't ready for the flood. And as you know, the flood came and killed everybody. Everything with breath. I mean, it destroyed all the creatures of the earth and all man and all living creatures with breath, except, of course, for those that were in the ark, the animals and all that Noah was told to get into the ark, and then him and his family of 8 people. And but in a way, he gives that as an illustration for us. He says, look, those people were surprised, is basically what he's saying. And they were just business as usual, and he uses that for me and you, that we need to recognize that we don't know. And he mentions that later. We don't know when the Son of Man is coming back to this earth and is the end of time. So we need to be ready and not surprised by it. But I want to also mention to you, by way of illustration, another thing that's a very beautiful picture for us, I believe, in the story of Noah. And this is really a picture, you might say, of the rapture, in fact. In the days of Noah, things were terrible. God was angry. He was going to destroy all mankind, but Noah, he says, found grace in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord spared mankind through Noah, but the times were terrible. Things were evil and wicked, and we know it's going to get that way when God takes the church out. There's going to be nothing to hold, the darkness and the powers of evil, and the Antichrist will be in power, and evil will be rampant on the church. And so it's going to be a terrible time just like that. But we see a picture, a beautiful picture, in the story of Noah and the flood. When God sent the flood, he had already taken Noah and put him in an ark. And the ark, you might say, would be a picture of salvation for all the church and all mankind and for life itself. And as the flood was poured out, which is a symbol or a picture of the wrath of God being poured out, the ark floated, didn't it, above the wrath of God. I really believe this is a illustration or a picture to me and you of the rapture. God takes the church out just like he took Noah and protected them and kept them from the wrath of God by putting them in an ark. He also will protect the church by taking us out. And he talks about that also, and by the way, he mentions that there'll be the sign in heavens of the Son of Man. There'll be the sign of the Son of Man, he says, and then there'll be the Son of Man will be seen by every eye, and then he will send his angels. This is in chapter 24 of Matthew. He will send his angels to collect the elect from the four winds. And so we see there a picture of the rapture. Well, I pray that you're prepared, that you won't be surprised eating and drinking, not ready because you haven't gotten right with God, maybe putting off going to church, putting off asking God to forgive you for your sins and getting that thing right with God, and turning from your old life to your new life. I pray that you won't be caught by surprise as the people during the days of Noah were caught by the flood. Well, I hope this has been a blessing to you and informative to you. Again, I want to encourage you that if you're enjoying these devotions, that you might subscribe to Pastor Talk. And I do welcome again your comments as well as suggestions that you might have. But anyway, this is Pastor Talk, and I'm Pastor Steve, and God bless you.